Alright, we are back. First things first, thank you guys for all the well wishes on my last upload. I am feeling much better, I am no longer sick, and the great news is, tournaments are back, we are here with more recaps, which means we are here, we are back, and we are ready to cook. Today was the first day of the Blast Premier World Finals, the last major tournament on the schedule before we are fully in the major run-up mode. A great opportunity for all of these top teams to come together, hash things out, and see who is going to be the strongest going into said major cycle. We started things off with NAVI taking on Astralis, Mouz taking on Faze Clan, G2 taking on Team Liquid, and then we rounded out the day with Vitality taking on Team Spirit. It's all killer, no filler, all week long, best of 3 series heading into a best of 5 final. Let's go ahead and see how things are shaking out early on. Before we do though, I have a special announcement. If you want to skip to the first section of the recap, you can do so at the timestamps in the description down below. Just do me a favor and make sure you like the video, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, helps out on the YouTube algorithm, thank you. Anyways, today I am proud to announce that our community Discord is finally open and available to the public. This is a project I have been putting off for far too long now, and as I was sick last week, I finally got off my lazy ass and decided to make it happen. This is the first time I've set up a community Discord like this, so feel free to join, top link in the description down below, react to the roles in the rules channel, and you'll be able to enter in and chat up with me and the other members of this fine community. As of right now, it's pretty bare bones as we're only just up and running, so please feel free to join the Discord and leave some feedback on things you would like to see added to it, and we'll continue to iterate and build on it over time. And now that we have this space to hang out together, I can start doing stuff like community nights on my stream, we could do watch parties for tournaments like the Major. It opens up a lot of opportunities for us all, and most of all, it gives us a space for me and you to be able to chat up about anything CS related or not. So go ahead and join, top link in the description. Thank you guys again, and let's go ahead and get started with the video. Alright, so let me set the scene for you guys, right? Blast World Finals, being held in Singapore, which is pretty far away from where I live in an undisclosed bunker somewhere on the west coast of the United States. So the games for me started at midnight, and all of the series were done before around 8 AM, give or take. Point is, I am many things, nocturnal and or a bat not being one of those things on that list. So I did the sensible thing. I slept through NAVI vs Astralis and Mouz vs Faze, woke up at 4 in the goddamn morning to watch G2 vs Liquid and Vitality vs Spirit. Now imagine my shock when at 4 in the accursed morning I wake up, I check my phone, and I see Astralis 2-0'd NAVI in 2 13-6 stomps. I wanted to go back to bed because I thought for sure I was looking at misinformation or an alternate reality. This couldn't be the case. Astralis, Astralis, with Cadian, soundly defeating the best team in the world, 6 straight finals, NAVI, our GOATs. But it turns out after pinching myself, taking a too hot shower, and then sitting down at my computer, that it was in fact true. This did happen, and I hate it. There is no nice way to put it. NAVI got thoroughly outplayed by Astralis on both of these maps. Even on Mirage, NAVI's home map. Now, I will give full credit to Astralis for this series. They played very well. Yabby, Stown, and Device all looked as good as they have looked as a core this year. And Cadian did enough shot calling to keep this team together. This is the best Astralis has looked in a series in a long time, and that is definitely worthy of praise. I will say though, it's very clear that the schedule has gotten to NAVI a little bit. I mean, 6 straight grand finals means that NAVI have been on a hellacious schedule as we head into the major. Very little time between events, not so much of a break. There was definitely reporting back during Rio that the team was getting frustrated with themselves, arguing, and that's just gonna happen. The travel is not easy. It's not easy on anybody. Somebody like Device, who also ran into the same issue with that godlike Astralis core back in 2019, will certainly understand. There's a certain point where you're just not guaranteed to bring your A1 game every single event. And NAVI showed up here, they rocked up to the series, and they did not bring their A1 game, and Astralis capitalized. And they did so in a very specific way. I'm actually working on a broader video about this subject that I hope to get done after this tournament, but Astralis controlled early momentum on both halves on Nuke specifically, to the point that NAVI had no time to recover or establish themselves. I've elaborated in the past about the importance of winning pistol rounds and the way that can swing the economy, but I'm starting to understand that that's much more broad than just the pistol rounds specifically. Especially at the pro level, what you see right now is that teams will essentially force buy against each other as much as possible in the early game until a team loses 2 times in a row. That forces a full save out of whoever lost so they can get to their first gun round proper. At that point, whoever has won those first 2 rounds in a row controls the momentum of the early game. And while winning in this first exchange of rounds doesn't necessarily guarantee you're going to go on to win the map, it does increase your odds of winning the game exponentially, especially if you do the same thing in the second half. And if you go on HLTV and take a look at the economy tab for this series, you'll actually see what I mean. This control of the early game netted Astralis 14 total full buy rounds compared to NAVI's 11. NAVI were forced to full save 3 times and were stuck with low buys or force buys 3 times. Compare that to Astralis, who had 3 force buys of themselves, but only had to full save 1 time in the entire game, a round they even won, just to add insult to injury. It's just a really interesting trend that I've noticed. Keep an eye out throughout this tournament. How often does a team who wins the first 5 rounds of a half go on to win that game? Something we'll touch on throughout the event. Unfortunately, as proof against the numbers, we go over to the next map on Mirage, and NAVI win the early game, but still proceed to get dumpstered throughout the rest of the match because stats aren't perfect. Oh, also, I almost forgot, so I'm just going to put this here. Normally, I would have made a joke already about Cadian being awful as an individual for Astralis, but I am going to give him a pass here, as I think everyone should, because courtesy of reporting from Striker, he's playing with an injured mouse arm. Device confirmed this at the event today. Cadian is not playing to 100%. He's hurt right now. We don't know what happened, but obviously that will impede his ability. Not everybody can be like Guardian and just come in with a broken arm, crank its sensitivity 10 times, and then frag out at a major. So don't worry, Cadian, you get a pass for now. So, what went wrong with NAVI here? Obviously, they've been one of the best Mirage teams in the world for a while now. Over the last 3 months, they've only lost it 4 times. The worrying part is that 3 of those losses have been in the last month, and all of them have been blowouts. It's actually becoming a bit of a worrying trend. I don't know if we can attribute that to the general fatigue the team is dealing with or what, but here, this was just one of those games where they got banged out. I didn't see anything that looked outwardly different in a strategic approach from either team. It was pretty standard for both of them, but the difference was that the NAVI individuals didn't show up. Meanwhile, it seemed like nobody on Earth could stop Yabby from taking over. I mean, just looking at the flat numbers, 26 kills, 18 headshots, 125 ADR, and a 2.18 rating. That's unreal stuff. Sure, single map, but again, it's NAVI. This team rarely gets blown out this badly, and Yabby was literally unstoppable. I mean, there's no nice way to put it. NAVI started off by winning the pistol round, winning the round after, and taking some early economic control, which is what we just said was really good. We pull up into the first full buy round, things aren't looking that great, went up with the bomb planted on B, Alexi B by himself in a 3v1, he gets the first pick on Cadian, very nice, he avoids the whiff from Device, scoots back to the cat corner, has the molly in the back pocket to stop the defuse even though the bomb's not planted for him, and he navigates the situation into a win for NAVI. Great stuff from Alexi B, honestly, and you love to see your IGL win that kind of clutch. It could really help the morale of the team. Unfortunately, NAVI only won 2 more rounds in the rest of the game. The following round probably was the worst one if you're a NAVI fan, because Astralis are stuck on a hero op buy. They literally have nothing else invested, and like, what else can you say except Astralis were just shooting straighter today. I mean, Yabi and Stare, great 1-digs from both of them, and then, you know, Device is one of the best 10 players to ever play Counter-Strike. And, you know, sometimes you can't do much about that. Unfortunately, it's just all downhill from there. I don't really feel the need to go into too much more detail. Are NAVI absolutely fucked from here on? I mean, possibly. They could just be bowing out of this tournament tomorrow. I mean, that definitely could happen. I certainly wouldn't hold it against them in the long run, considering the schedule they've had to deal with, though. And in the same token, this was a great win for Astralis, but I also don't think this is like the heralding of a grand turnaround for this roster. This roster still has so many issues. They caught NAVI on a bad day. They took advantage of it. Fair play. Let's move on to the next series, Mouz versus Faze Clan. Right off the rip, this was a great series for Mouz. They've definitely been a team with a lot of discussion going on around them. Will they stay together after the major? Has this roster ran this course? So many question marks about their ability to perform in big matches. And while that still remains to be seen as we move on further in the tournament, starting off their run here with a great clutch win over Faze is definitely a great way to do it. Faze was a team that has always vexed this Mouz lineup, and now having 2 back-to-back series wins over them has got to feel good. And right at the forefront for Mouz, the biggest thing for them in this series was one Mr. Brolan, who was incredible on both these maps, top fragged all the way for Mouz, was clutch throughout both games. It's great to see him have that kind of pop-off carry performance, especially because his other star players, Xerxin and Torzi, can definitely be inconsistent in their own right. For the Faze guys, this is an unfortunate, another slow start to a tournament. Rops and Brokey were not very good. In fact, they were very missing, especially on the second map. Frozen was going blow for blow with Brolin. He was the second best player in this series, but for FaZe Clan, the whole idea is that you put 4 incredibly good players around Kerrigan, and then you minimize the fact that Kerrigan is not a good individual player. So when Kerrigan is your second best player for the series, that's a problem. Despite all of those issues, FaZe definitely made this a close affair on both of these maps, like I said. Getting into Inferno specifically, I want to just fast forward straight to the overtime and talk about how good Mouz were in the clutch down the stretch here. FaZe took the first round of overtime pretty decisively, but then Mouz just locked it in. They won 4 rounds straight to close out this game, and the first one is just all about Brolin. There's just nothing more authoritative than walking your ass straight up mid on Inferno, hopping into apartments, walking out boiler with nobody seeing you're there, and then just decimating the CTs. Catches Brokey holding a nade out, takes him out, deletes Rops right after, swings onto Rain by Moto, and then just to really seal the deal, sends Kerrigan to the Shadow Realms in the library. It all happened so fast that Frozen is still on B, and oh wait, there's Xerxin. No, he's not. In the next round, Mouz continue the fast pace. Xerxin gets the opener up banana. Brolin over the apartments finds one of his own walking through the smoke before Brokey finally puts a stop to his shenanigans. Unfortunately, Brokey, also not long for this world, Torzi gets the trade in mid. At this point, Rain and Frozen group up. They make the decision to rotate off B and hedge their bets towards A, but Mouz have other plans. They're already well on their way to rotating into B. Eventually, they're going to get the bomb down. Frozen and Rain, they're contending from CT. They're trying to make their way, and it's the last round of the half. No point in saving. Unfortunately, Jimmy is on the lurk. He creeps through CT, gets the double kill to end the half, and Mouz are now in the lead, 14-13. On that first CT round, it's all about Torzi. Great work from the Arch with the op in his hands. 2 great shots through the smoke, blows up the Faze attack before it even gets started, and then Shuhei and Jimmy complete the effort in the post plan. Mouz finished up Inferno nicely, taking the 1-0 series lead. As we head over to Nuke, it's once again another close affair. Frozen and Brolin both are still shining as individuals for both teams, but we're getting down the stretch in the second half. It's 8-8, and there's just a handful of rounds here that are pretty much unforgivable losses if you're FaZe. They were well in the lead, but they couldn't finish the rounds. They started losing key gunfights. Like Frozen starts off with immediate double pick outside. You're now up 3v5, you have full control of outside. This is a round you should win every single time. But Shuhei gets a comebacker from outside in the big garage, and then Brolin equalizes the advantage in the vent not long after. Okay, no big deal, from a 5v3 to a 3v3. However, JimFat seals the deal with a pick on Kerrigan on the top side, and suddenly FaZe are behind. Brokey finally takes care of Brolin so they can gain access to the bottom bomb site and get the bomb down, but then Shuhei, the leader, comes out of nowhere from the ramp. 2 excellent picks to secure the bomb, get the round win. Unfortunately, it doesn't get much better from there for FaZe. In the very next round, they're saving, they just got some Tech 9s, and you think maybe the wins are starting to change a little bit. They managed to blow up the A site, they get in there. Some great timely Tech 9 picks by Rain and Kerrigan suddenly leaves Rain in a 1v1. If he converts, that could be a huge swing in the rest of the game, but unfortunately, Jimmy is the crusher of all dreams and hopes, takes care of work pretty quickly. Yeah, I don't know, man. This was a super winnable series for FaZe when you go back and look at the tape a little closer. What it boils down to ultimately was Rops and Brokey being missing. I mean, they're their 2 most important players. Frozen is incredible, but at the end of the day, he plays such an aggressive role that you know he's going to have game-to-game variance. What they rely on is Rops and Brokey being the true superstars of this team. And Rops has his moments, and so does Brokey, but they're both prone to inconsistencies. Brokey is probably the most consistent of the tier 1 oppers that are like true title contenders. And then Romps, I don't know, man. I don't know if it's a role issue. I don't know what to explain, but he was the best player in CS2 when the year started, and it's pretty much all been downhill since then. Moving on, we have the most confusing series of the day. We have G2 taking on Team Liquid, and I'll be honest, like I said, this was the game I woke up at 4 AM for, so I'm sitting there, barely awake, barely a person, and, you know, Liquid blow out G2 13-0 on Ancient, and I'm like, oh, okay, we're getting that G2 this tournament, where Nico, Mouz, and Mouz don't play like the 3 best players in the world, and you realize they don't have a strat beyond those 3 players play the 3 best players in the world. There's really not much to be said about this first game. Liquid just ran them over. The T side had nothing going on, no real picks, they couldn't take a bomb site. Yakindar looked competent, that pretty much tells you everything you need to know. The concerning thing for Team Liquid, and this is apparent throughout the rest of the series and as of late, was that Ultimate still wasn't very present. Even when this team was dominating, they couldn't get him activated like he has at previous events. This is called foreshadowing. An interesting note as we head into Game 2, for whatever reason, every time G2 has played Liquid, these games have been blowouts. Neither team makes it close, and yeah, we saw more of that here today. On Inferno, the first place we're going to start is by talking about Mr. Nico, because, dude, I don't know what to say. We all know that Nico is probably the best Deagle player in the history of Counter-Strike, but I'm just starting to think he might be the best pistol round player as well, or definitely in that conversation. He was pretty much instrumental for G2 to win every single remaining pistol round in this series. He multi-killed in every single pistol round. And that comes back to what we talked about previously about that economic control. Winning those first handful of rounds is so instrumental towards the outcome of the game. Now granted, there was one blemish on the way to this early game victory for G2, and that was Twist just being a god in front of the library on the A side. Again, sometimes you can't really do anything about individual greatness. Now, I want to pivot to something a little more esoteric for the rest of this game when we watch Nico dominate another pistol round here, and let's talk about Ultimate. Ultimate now has been with Team Liquid for quite a few tournaments, and his first couple of appearances were obviously very good, as we've covered on this channel. I've had nothing but positive things to say about him throughout his tenure so far. He looks like an amazing young talent with a lot of potential, but the unfortunate reality he's currently dealing with is that he's been found out. His last 3 events coming into the Blast World Finals are negative. He's not had the same impact he's had during his meteoric rise. So the question is now, what does Ultimate have to do to push through this barrier and really establish himself in Tier 1 proper? How does he break through that hyperbolic time chamber, the metamorphical chrysalis of change he's currently experiencing? Well, first things first is I think he needs a better role when he doesn't have the AWP in his hands. Watching him here on Inferno and on Mirage, when he's not using the AWP, he is a much more passive player and he doesn't seem to take nearly any initiative. I get that space is finite on a map and you want NAF and Twist to have free reign of whatever spots they want, but I don't see why we can't shift Ultimate to be more aggressive alongside Yakindar in a way he normally is with the AWP, but with the rifle. I don't know if it's a lack of confidence on his end or what, but he needs to be the focal point of how this team operates. That's what the AWP role needs to be. And you look at the other best oppers in the world, what do they all share in common? The ability to do it with the rifle or the big green. m0NESY, ZywOo, Wonderful, Shiro, they all manage to find impact in their own ways. Ultimate needs to figure out if he's going to be the Shiro type of opper who tends to stay back, which I don't think he is based on how he likes to entry, or if he's going to be like m0NESY and ZywOo and be aggressive and initiative with both. But what you can't have at all is your only 8 kills in a map being with the AWP. You have to get your impact elsewhere. There's not enough time in the game for you to generate economy and be an AWP only kind of player. We are in a meta where you need to be a hybrid. And when we get to Mirage, this issue with Ultimate gets even worse because if you can't win the AWP battles and you're not going to be relevant on the rifles, then your team is absolutely fucked. As for G2, I don't know if you heard about them, but they have these 3 guys on their team, m0NESY, Nico, and this kid from Guatemala named Mouz. And when those guys click heads, there's pretty much nobody in the world that can stop them. This is my sophisticated analysis, which leads you to leave a like, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel so that I make money. Again, I find myself at an impasse because I want to give you guys in-depth analysis of these series, every single series whenever possible, but like, what do I say here? We're talking about 2 teams that aren't exactly remaking the book on tactics to begin with, and then Liquid are dealing with 3 of their players being traffic cones, and G2 are T-posing. I thought G2 were going to be buried after that 13-0, but they utterly destroyed Liquid in the back half of this series, and took a rightful win 2-1. Speaking of, I don't know what to say about this, our last series of the day was Spirit taking on Vitality. And listen, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. Vitality are playing with a stand-in, so ZywOo would have to drop 50 kills a map for them to have a chance, especially because Spinx and Flamesy weren't all that great themselves. For Spirit, they were supposed to win this series every single time when Vitality has a stand-in. Now granted, Mezzy deserves to have the time off considering he's having a child. Some things are more important than Counter-Strike, it turns out, a concept that I struggle with routinely. So it just is what it is. If you're Vitality, you're here to just mess around, keep informed for the upcoming RMRs, and see if ZywOo can throw out a ridiculous carry performance. You're not invested in this tournament because you know you're not at full strength. I would have had a lot to say if Spirit showed up and managed to bungle this series, and admittedly, because ZywOo is, again, one of the best players in the world, he of course made both of these maps closer than they had any right to be, but Donk and Shiro, they showed up, they did what they needed to do. Donk took space effectively the way we expect him to, entering like a maniac, still, for me, the player of the year. Argue with me in the comments, I dare you. And then Shiro looked great, he went op for op with ZywOo, had great impact across both the maps, and importantly, Spirit didn't throw random rounds, their T-sides looked pretty cohesive, and everyone, including Chopper, contributed at a good level. This wasn't Donk and Shiro hard carrying, this is Donk and Shiro and everybody else doing their job. Could Vitality surprise somebody in the lower brackets by ZywOo dropping 100 kills in one map? Yes, that's always possible, but at the end of the day, this was the expected result. Alright guys, thank you guys for watching. As always, would have had this one out a little bit sooner, but this schedule for this tournament's really weird, so I'm still figuring things out. Obviously, I'm just coming back from being off because of being sick as well, and I was organizing the Discord in the meantime. Make sure you check that out, top link in the description. We'd love to be able to chat with you. Other than that, these videos are powered by Advanced.gg. Check the link in the description down below. If you browse their products and decide to make a purchase, you can use my code LIONS10 for 10% off. Thank you to Advance. I also work with Refrag. I think they're the best self-improvement platform in CS. If you're trying to take your game to the next level, consider getting a Refrag subscription and use my code LION15 for 15% off as well. Shout out to my channel members, Justin, Jesse, Furley, Bubblesj, Dr. Cocktor, and Milan Berta. If you want to become a channel member, you can do so at the description down below. It helps me out immensely, but as always, your viewership is enough for me. I'll catch you guys in another video. Peace.